Hey, what's up guys? My name is Spartan, and in today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a guide on the labs in the idle tower defense. So first off, I'm just going to kind of go over the basics of the labs, what all is involved, and then after that, I'm going to give you guys basically a priority of upgrades that you should maybe consider looking into, and this will be separated by the various stages of the game, all the way from brand new to about where I'm at. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just go into the lab and talk about the basics of the lab. So under the lab basics, what are labs? In this game, labs allow you to basically influence different aspects of your tower, whether it be how many coins you get, your survivability stats, your damage stats, the effectiveness of your ultimate weapons, module related stuff, card related stuff. There are so many different labs, and under each of the labs, you can see there's a bunch of different categories like main research, attack research, defense research, utility, etc. And at first glance, it can be definitely pretty overwhelming looking at all of this different stuff to upgrade, but that's why I wanted to make this little video for you guys and hopefully maybe provide some clarity to you guys. But within the labs, you can have up to 5 labs unlocked. You can see I currently have all 5. And in order to unlock all 5, I'll just tell you the prices of each one. Lab 1 is completely free. You get it right from the go. Lab 2 costs 100 gems. Lab 3 costs 400 gems. Lab 4 costs 1400 gems. And last but not least, Lab 5 costs a whopping 3000 gems. Now, the first thing that I will say in terms of your labs, I personally would not recommend really working on modules or cards or anything else until you have all 5 labs unlocked. And the reason being is because, kind of like we mentioned, there's so many different upgrades in the labs. The labs, I believe, take the longest in this game to actually max and fully develop. So for that reason, I would highly suggest and recommend to you guys trying to get all 5 labs as soon as humanly possible. Really, the last thing that we have to talk about within the actual lab page itself is the speed up system. So you can actually boost your labs by a few different metrics. You can boost them in the actual game through the cells, which are the yellow triangles there at the top right of the screen. You can see currently I have most of my stuff on 3 times boost, then I have 2 that I have on 4 times boost. You collect the cells by killing the elite enemies, so vampire, scatter enemies, and ray enemies. All of those enemies will drop cells, which will allow you to speed up your tower. And if you guys are curious about how to really get more cells and sort of optimize your farming, I already made a video covering that exact topic, so feel free to check it out. Link will be down in the video description below. A couple other ways that you can sort of impact the speed of your labs is the lab speed lab, which I currently have running. I am taking this 2 gold box. I don't really care how long it takes. I'm just taking it there. That's just a personal thing that I've wanted to do. So lab speed is another influencing factor. You also may notice I have the ability to rush with gems. So if I see like my reroll shards, if I want to take it from 84 to 85 right now, I just hit the rush button. Then it will allow me to spend gems to rush it. Then the last real way that I can think of is through relics. You have individual relics that basically can give you a multitude of different stats like coins, cash, enemy level skips, health, EHP stats, whatever. But there also are relics for lab speed, and that also kind of plays into all of the other stuff that we've spoken on. Trying to get your lab speed up is definitely helpful because some of these lab upgrades, like you can see the shatter shards level 2, I'm trying to work on that currently, and I'm not even halfway done with the lab, and I still have 36 days left. So you can definitely see some of these labs take an absolute absurd amount of time. But that is kind of actually going to cover the basics of the labs. Let's go ahead and jump into the priority of upgrades. So right out the gate, if you are a brand new player, and this basically, the way I have this set up, I have brand new, early game, late stages of early game, early mid game, and then later stages of mid game. And I also have it broken down into more or less like tiers that you would be farming if you're at this stage of the game. So for brand new players, I kind of classify that as farming tier 1, maybe a little bit of tier 2. And for that, the very first thing that you're going to want to gold box is your game speed. Your game speed lab is crucial. Basically, the game speed lab takes it from a times 1.5 multiplier, which you can see how slow that is, all the way to at max level times 5 speed. But the reason that the game speed lab is so critical is because it actually affects how many coins that you're able to get in a given day. Because if you go to the stats page, you can see there is the real time and then the game time. So the game time would be if I was at 1 time speed. So for this 8,000 almost wave farming run, it would have taken me 2 days and 3 hours if I did not have my game speed as high as I do. Because I do have it as high as I do, I am able to get it done in 10 hours. So that is really good. The next lab that we're going to actually talk about is the lab speed lab, which I know we kind of already touched on. It has 99 levels, and ideally, eventually, it would really benefit you to fully max it. But I know a lot of people will kind of get it up to around level 50 and then stop and upgrade some other stuff and then come back to it. It really just comes down to what you think is best for your tower. Me personally, I'm a gambling man. I believe that it will benefit me to basically take it all the way to max level. Scrolling down a little bit here, some other stuff that you may want to start working on is some of your, under the attack tree, your attack speed research. Attack speed would be definitely a good lab to get a head start on. It's very, very valuable at all stages of the game, and you really just can't go wrong with attack speed. Then scrolling down a little bit further, you have your coins per kill and your cash bonus. Your cash bonus is really important early on until you're able to kind of max a lot of your workshop stuff. It just helps you get all of your stuff in your workshop maxed during the run sooner rather than later. So definitely a lot of value there. And then the coins per kill bonus, because the coins per kill bonus is just absolutely amazing. And at this stage of the game, if you're eventually farming tier 2, it would be a good idea to try to get the Garlic Thorns lab fully maxed. This will make vampires not even really be a problem, and it's just super, super valuable. Like, you really just can't go wrong with Garlic Thorns. And really the last one here I would recommend is the light speed shots. Light speed shots basically just reduce the amount of time that it takes for a projectile to hit an enemy. It makes it go relatively instantly, and it's definitely very helpful for, especially if you're running the blender strategy, keeping the enemies away from your tower with your attack speed. It is a very, very good lab to go ahead and knock out. And really the last thing that I'll say for this stage of the game is you will not have a whole lot of labs available. You won't have near as many as like I have, for example. But what I would suggest is what I call the spread the love strategy. So for example, if you have a bunch of upgrades, like I have my damage per meter here that takes 1 hour to do. If you have a bunch of small upgrade times like that, I would say just try to knock them out. Do a little bit of a well-balanced sort of approach with your labs. And yeah, I mean, that's personally what I did. I got sort of most of my stuff to like a baseline level. And after that, you know, I just started being a little bit more selective. But by getting everything at sort of a baseline of like, even like 10 levels into something, it does make a little bit of a difference. So keep that in mind. But that is going to cover it for the beginning brand new players in the game. Now let's go ahead and move into the early game, which I have sort of as tier 3 through tier 8. So a lot of this will depend on your build. If you're running more EHP style builds, you'll want to focus on some of the actual like health related labs like health regen, defense, and defense absolute. Those labs would be really good to go ahead and get a baseline at this point in the game. As you can see, these are my current levels so that you can kind of cross-reference if you'd like. But ideally, you would really like to eventually get health up to around level 25 or 30, as well as health regen, defense percent to level 23, and then defense absolute if you're farming tier 1 to maybe level 10 or 15. It's not really as important as the other 3, but it does help a little bit. If you're trying to run more of a damage, hybrid / glass cannon build, you'll want to focus on really the big 3, which are damage, crit factor, and attack speed. You'll get a lot of value from that really throughout the game. And after that, at this point, you might not have a whole lot of ultimate weapons to work with, so not really concerned with those labs, but the main thing that you'll really want to work on is your coins per kill bonus. That will be super, super helpful. If you do have some ultimate weapon bonus labs, like if you have, for example, the Golden Tower bonus or the Black Hole coin bonus, you can go ahead and start getting some headway on those. Definitely would be a good idea to do, but not necessarily a huge priority at this stage of the game. The other big category that would be very good to try to unlock and work towards would be unlocking perks. Perks are literally game-changing. They allow you to have all of these different buffs that you get throughout the game just by playing the game. It is a very, very big milestone in terms of like your progression. So unlocking perks would be a great lab to go ahead and do at a bare minimum. Some other stuff that would be really good to do is get first perk choice. That is valuable so that you can get the perk wave requirement perk as your first perk choice. And then after that, the next one I would recommend is perhaps doing the perk option quantity, going ahead and getting both of those levels knocked out so that you have 4 available perks to choose from. One last thing that would be pretty helpful at this stage of the game, because I know a lot of people kind of rely at this stage on their recovery health, their recovery package health, and that would be recovery package after boss. This basically allows, literally after a boss wave, a recovery package is guaranteed to spawn. And last but not least, a couple good module labs to go ahead and get a head start on would be your common drop chance and your rare drop chance. They both are pretty short labs, they only have 10 levels, and you get a ton of value from them throughout the course of the game. But trust me, as somebody who neglected modules way longer than they should have, definitely don't sleep on the module labs because they are very, very important as you go throughout the game. That is going to cover the early game. Let's go ahead and move into the later stages of the early game, which I basically define as going from tier 8 to tier 10. So the big one here is going to be all of your ultimate weapon coin bonus labs. So anything that is econ related is really going to benefit you here. You have the Death Wave Cell bonus, which is also very, very important. You have Black Hole coin bonus, Spotlight coin bonus if you have Spotlight, Death Wave coin bonus, and Golden Tower coin bonus, and Duration. All of those labs will definitely help you, and it would really be a good idea to try to max those out as quickly as you can. Likewise, under the perks, there are a few here that are very, very helpful as well. You have the Improve trade-off perks. This lab takes 10 levels. It's a little bit expensive, and the last couple levels take quite a bit. Definitely a good idea to try to work on that. The next one in the perks category is going to be Standard Perk Bonus. This one, like we mentioned, is just absolutely, completely valuable for all stages of the game. It allows you to oh my god, I am getting so many coins. So standard perk bonus only affects these blue perks like defense percent, perk wave requirement, increased game speed, cash bonus. It does not affect the ultimate weapon perks. It does not affect the trade-off perks. It only affects these standard perks. But even just some of these, like the game speed, the perk wave requirement, and the coin bonuses, that alone makes this lab absolutely mandatory to try to get done. Last thing under perks at this stage of the game, it would probably be a good idea to try to get a few bands available. So you can see I currently have 4 bands, and that has been pretty sufficient for me. And yeah, it eliminates some of the kind of minute standard perks, which allow me to get the perks that I actually want a little bit sooner. So getting a few band perks in would be a good idea at this stage of the game. I would suggest around 3 or 4 at a bare minimum. And at this point in the game, we are still trying to work on our module labs. Maybe you could throw some baseline levels at like the daily mission shards, the reroll shards, and the module shards, stuff like that. But at this point, you're definitely going to want to try to work on some of these module labs because they really do help as you progress throughout the game in terms of your modules. Likewise, under the card research, it probably would be a good idea to start working on some of these things like the extra orb adjuster, which allows you to adjust the sort of range of your extra orbs card. Also, the extra orbs would be nice. The second wind blast is really good, and that's really all I would do at this point of the game. But a lot of this is really just kind of piggybacking off of the very first part, but we're starting to get a little bit more selective, really kind of honing in on some of the econ stuff at this stage of the game, because econ is what's going to carry you throughout the course of the game. You can continue to kind of raise up your EHP stats, your labs for that if you'd like, Some of the other EHP labs that are pretty good will be like the Orb Boss Hit, the Orb Speed. Those are both very good labs, especially if you're running the Blender build. If you're doing more of a Glass Cannon or hybrid style build, you may want to start working on the crit factor, damage, and attack speed like we previously mentioned. But that's pretty much going to cover it for the later stages of the early game. Let's go ahead and talk about the early stages of the mid game. I know this is a lot of back and forth, but bear with me. I kind of define this as tier 10 through tier 12 farming. Surprise, surprise, we're still working on our econ labs. Just trying to work on things like coins per kill bonus, getting that higher. If you don't have all of your econ ultimate weapon labs maxed at this point, it would be a really great idea to try to work on that. Also at this point, you're pretty much not working on your EHP labs any longer. You're mainly starting to work on your attack research. So this is where you have things like the crit factor, damage, and attack speed that we already touched on. But you can also start throwing some stuff at some of these other things like super crit multipliers, super crit chance. Also at this point of the game, not really concerned as much with cash bonus, but you are concerned with your enemy attack level and enemy health level skips. Going ahead and getting these to level 10 at a bare minimum would be great, would get you an extra 1%, and you get 2% for just finishing the lab. They have 20 levels each, so eventually it would be a good idea to max these. Scrolling down a little bit here to the modules. At this point of the game, you should ideally have most of your module labs fully maxed. You can see, obviously, I do not because I have sort of struggled with these. But yeah, at this point of the game, you ideally would have Shatter Shards unlocked, and I would highly suggest that you try to get this lab done as quickly as you can. It has already proven to be quite beneficial for me, and I'm not even close to getting done with like even level 2. But yeah, Shatter Shards is definitely a very good lab. At this point of the game, you also may want to start putting some levels into the module coin cost, just depending on how expensive they're starting to get. But the main ones at this point will be your daily mission shards, your module shard costs, your reroll shards, and shatter shards. Ideally, you have the rest of this maxed, by the way. Scrolling up a little bit higher to the cards research, at this point, you have the option, if you'd like, to start working on things like the Recharge Demon Mode, Recharge Nuke, Recharge Second Wind, and you're slowly starting to save up for your card mastery labs, if you have any card masteries available. And really the last lab for this stage of the game that starts to really become important is your lab coin discount. You can see right here, it just reduces the total coin cost of all lab researches, and very, very valuable there, especially because at this point of the game, you likely have unlocked, if not already purchased, a card mastery or two. And as you can see, they get absolutely expensive to upgrade the labs for. Like for the free up mastery level 2, it costs 1.17 Q, which is just freaking crazy. And for the later stages of the mid game, I would kind of categorize that as anything like tier 12 and above, up to about tier 15 or 16. And at this point of the game, this is where you can start to be very selective. You're still working on econ if you haven't already maxed everything. Some of the other stuff that you can start working on is your module effect bands. It can really help you with re-rolling your module effects, kind of with the RNG and that. Just removing some stuff from the table can be valuable there. At this point, you're also almost exclusively working on your attack stuff in the attack research. So again, trying to take your damage, attack speed, and crit factor as high as you can, as well as your super crit chance and your super crit multiplier. You may even consider starting to work on some of these other ones like the max rend armor, even the damage per meter if you have the Spotlight Plus ultimate weapon. So very valuable there. You're still also working on the lab coin discount for the sake of, like we just discussed, working on your card masteries, trying to get those good. You also might be at this stage of the game working on your actual damage related stuff within your ultimate weapons, starting to work on things like your chain lightning shock chance, your shock, even just unlocking it, swamp radius, swamp stun, anything other than econ basically within your ultimate weapons that you find value in, like your smart missile labs, your chain thunder, I don't know, all of this sort of stuff. And you also at this stage of the game can start kind of working towards working on some of these like enemy labs, like the boss health, maybe the fast enemy speed, different things like that could be valuable. But ultimately, at this stage of the game, you're really just a lot more niche down to what your specific build requires in terms of lab research. It's kind of hard to put like a cookie cutter kind of guide together for the later stages of the game, which is why I'm not really including them in this video. But I digress. That is actually going to cover the priority of upgrades, in my opinion. Again, if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. And then the last thing that we'll talk about here is actually the strategy for balance. And this is something that I have only recently tried to start doing, and I wish that I had done it a lot sooner on. And the best strategy for balance that I have found is sort of having each individual lab dedicated to a specific category. For example, like econ, I could have lab 3 be my econ lab. I could have lab 2 be my module lab. Lab 3 could be my EHP lab. Lab 4 could be my ultimate weapon lab. You know, different things like that. But the point is, sort of along with the same mindset of like spreading the love, you want to do that with your labs just so that you're not getting hyper fixated on one specific thing. Like, you could go all in on EHP, but then you wouldn't make as many coins, maybe. You could go all in on coins, but suck in tournaments, not survive long enough during your normal even farming runs, etc. So the best strategy that I would recommend is simply just having one lab dedicated to different aspects of the game. Obviously, this can change. It's subject to change. If there's a lab that you just really want to freaking get done, or there's, you know, you want to have 2 or 3 labs dedicated to just econ, or like me right now, I have 3 labs dedicated to modules because I have neglected my modules. It just kind of comes down to what you think will be best for your tower. And that brings me on to my last point that I'd like to leave you guys with in this video. And I have talked about it before, but I feel like I should do it again since this is a more dedicated guide. And that is, in my opinion, in your labs, you should upgrade things based on the weaknesses of your tower. If your weakness is modules, like mine currently is, you should try to focus on modules. If your weakness is econ, you should try to focus on econ. You guys get the picture. But anyway, guys, that is actually going to conclude today's video, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it was maybe valuable to some of you guys, and if it was, feel free to let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, as well as maybe consider liking the video. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And last but not least, maybe consider subscribing to the channel if you'd like to see more of my content. One last thing, guys, we have a Discord server with over 1,000 members in it. We've been growing a community of like-minded people who love playing this game as much as I do, and that's usually where I like to hang out. So if you guys would like to kind of join the server and see what it's all about, feel free to check it out. Link will be in the video description down below. And anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video, but thank you so much for watching, and like always, I will see you guys later.